This call is now being recorded.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into us again. This is Dylan with Dirty Mouth Morgan, and we are going to finish our episode, our podcast on the best horror movies of the 1990s. We have done for 20 through 11 with a couple of honorable mentions. We're going to get into the top 10. This should be juicy. Should be a good ending to this episode. And again, we're going to have a big, huge horror movie countdown for a Halloween episode. We're going to do basically everything of the 21st century, the best horror movies of the 21st century. Before we do that, let's get into our top 10. Dirty, what is your number 10 movie for the best horror movies of the 1990s?
Seven with Brad Pitt and Kevin Spacey.
Yes, huge.
Really good.
Brad Pitt, Brad Pitt.
Morgan Freeman.
It is Morgan Freeman. Okay, and Spacey, Kevin Spacey.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yes. Yeah, big time murder mystery type movie.
Really gross, like really graphic.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that when that came out. That was huge. It started a lot of those. There's a lot of those horror movie novelists that were writing. Really getting into serial killer novels became a huge thing in the 90s with Jeffrey Deaver, and there was. Stephen King was starting to write a little bit about it. There was some other guys too, John Saul, and they kind of created. I'm blanking on some of these other movies. One of them where Denzel Washington was the recurring hero, and the movie played a character that was in a wheelchair. Anyway. Seven really kind of started that huge movie, and still to this day, it's probably the most acclaimed movie that Brad Pitt's ever been in.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a really good movie.
Okay, so that's your number 10. My number 10 is Lake Placid. Love this friggin' movie. It's about a giant crocodile, I guess, that somehow gets into I don't know if it's a saltwater croc, but it's a crocodile that gets into this lake, and everyone wonders what it's feeding off of, and it turns out that there's this old woman that lives on the lake that's feeding it big animals so they can survive. Great action movie. I love anything underwater, too. Anything that's underwater, big thing for me. So if you haven't seen it, number 2, number 3, they really kind of suck. It turned into like a science fiction channel horror movie, which any of those are just Sharknado. Any of that crap is like, love the attempt by the Sci-Fi Channel, but the effects just really don't do it at all. So that's my number 10 is Lake Placid. Dirty, what do you got for number 9?
Candyman.
Love it.
Yeah, me too. That was a good movie. It's a good story. Different take on horror. Kind of entering like historical, with regarding slavery, because the monster is a tortured soul, and he gets payback. I don't know. I just thought it was all around a good movie.
Yeah, and that was a Clive Barker book, actually based off of a true story from here in Chicago, which I believe is what the movie is based out of Chicago too. Yep, great. Great. I will say very good. The guy who plays the Candyman is a very good actor too. I don't have his name in front of me, but he's done some other things that are very good. So that's number 9. My number 9 movie. Oh, I must have gone to the theaters a half a dozen times to see this. Sometimes drunk. Again, going along the line of like horror movies that involve animals, creatures, insects, whatever. It's Deep Blue Sea. It was 1999. There's just not enough shark horror movies. Any aquatic horror movies. I just said about alligators, crocodiles. I love all this kind of stuff. And yeah, it was what do you call that? Not AI, but it was the special. There were special effects created sharks. It was not like a robotic shark, like a man-made shark, as in Jaws, the Jaws movies. But it was well done. Great cast. Samuel L. Jackson was in there. LL Cool J was in there. He was very good. Thomas Jane. That dude's a good actor.
Yeah.
Michael Rappaport, who actually is, I think he's got a podcast. He ruffles some feathers as far as some of the stuff that guy says. Have you ever heard any of his podcasts?
Yeah, I like his podcast. Like, yeah, he says some dumb shit, but overall, I think he's got a pretty good, genuine show, and it's pretty popular, and he does, basically what, I like his style, so.
So one thing I thought was interesting is that there is some attempts by scientists to genetically modify the serum. There's something in sharks where, number one, they don't get cancer, and they also don't get Alzheimer's disease. So the scientists have tried to basically extract whatever it is, the chemical that's created by sharks that allows them to not get cancer and Alzheimer's disease. Maybe it's the same thing that they're using to try to fight both of those diseases, but that's the basis of the movie. Some really beautiful cinematography in there. Again, most of it is computer generated, but it's a very good movie. That's my number 9. Dirty, what do you got for number 8?
Misery.
Great.
Just a good movie. Good performance, good cast, good story. I thought it was, I don't know, it's kind of eerie because I could see the way things are nowadays in real life. You could say that was like a news report, because I could, there's the whole thing with stalkers and fans, and super fans, and you could even say that about people who are like MAGA people, just crazy and possessive and obsessed with the product. I mean, you could say that about some superhero, fans, sports fans. You could say that about just obsessed people about, entertainment or, writers. And so, yeah, that was pretty genius, pretty good.
Classic, groundbreaking performance from Kathy Bates, who's ended up to have a great career. I'll tell you what, too, she was in another movie. It's not on our list. Horror movie. Probably not, but very good book called Dolores Claiborne. She was very good in that movie with Jennifer Jason Leigh. So yeah, dig that, Misery. Now, number 8 for me is a repeat that you've already had. I got Candyman at number 8.
Okay.
Tony Todd is the main actor that plays the Candyman. I thought that he was in the remake of Return of the Living Dead in 1990, which is very good. Not Return of the Living Dead, Night of the Living Dead, the remake of that. Not to mention the fact that Candyman is one of the rare 90s movies that has an unbelievable theme song. It's a piano. It's a little piano. I really can't do it justice, but it's this fabulous little eerie piano riff. What is it called? Philip Glass. And yeah, he's still alive. Anyway, I guess it's just the theme to whoever the girl is that Candyman is trying to do whatever. I don't know if he's trying to woo her or what, but Virginia Madsen, who was a very good actress, like her a lot. She was in that movie. Anyway, yep, Candyman number 8, very good horror movie remade. I haven't seen it, but don't know if I care to, but if I happen to, then I'll certainly let you guys know. 30, okay, well, let's go on to number 7.
I have to say Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's pretty good.
Yeah, there's a lot of hype around that movie. Obvious reasons. It was, Bram Stoker's novel. They're trying to be as as good as they can as far as following the original story. Usually, that was a big book. You can't do the whole thing in one movie, but they tried to condense it down. Obviously, Gary Oldman was an extremely accomplished British actor playing Dracula. Of course, the guy who played Van
Helsing.
Van Helsing. That's Silence of the Lambs guy, Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, he's great.
Winona Ryder, Keanu Reeves. Yeah, big cast.
Yeah, I liked it because it was great. And, it was kind of disturbing, like when he's feeding the 2 vampiresses, the infant,
which was in the book.
Then, yeah, I mean, a lot of those books are pretty graphic and fucked up, but and then how he changed, how he could change form and shapes. That was like a new thing I learned about vampire cultures, the different beasts. I thought Gary Oldman was really good as Dracula. Keanu Reeves, I didn't quite I know they cast him because he was hot, like he was a hot actor at the time, but I didn't understand why he was in it. But yeah, I thought Anthony Hopkins was great as Van Helsing. What else? Yeah, it's just a really, really, I don't know. It went beyond it. It changed the image of drag. It went more traditional. It took place in the 1800s. Usually before that it was like the romantic slick back hair 1930s look of vampire romantic. But this guy was like all that, but then he was also very disgusting. And I didn't know about Vlad the Impaler. It's like kind of got some historical aspect to it because that guy was real and he was a psychopath. Yeah, so it was a good movie.
Yeah, Vlad the Impaler. Was he from Hungary? I want to say he was
Romania.
Hungarian.
Romania.
Vlad the Impaler? Oh.
Yeah.
So who am I thinking of from... Sorry, damn it. Who's that other guy? Yeah, because I know that Vlad the Impaler actually would behead his victims, put them on poles.
Right.
I think they would drink blood as a sort of like that was something that was going on. It was not only Hungarian, but they used to do it. The Aztecs, I believe, used to do it. Had something to do with like ingesting your victim, whoever it is, it's the ultimate way of conquering them.
Right, Hunters here. I learned about it. I learned about that from kind of did the same thing in the movie Red Dawn. And they did that with eating the heart. Is kind of the same idea where you take the spirit of your victim or something and then gain the power or some shit. But
right.
yeah.
God, I hate when something's on the absolute tip of your tongue and you feel like you got to get it out. I'm trying to think. Well, anyway, I'll try to think about it as I go on the list. I'm trying to think of this other horrible around the same time, like 14th, 15th century guy that just went around beheading people all around Europe, and I could have sworn he was from Hungary. Anyway, I'll try to get back to that. But let's see, that was your number 7?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to be doubling up on some of these, I imagine, as far as when we get further on to the list. So my number 7 is Misery, which you already.
Okay.
James Caan played the novelist, which actually, that's technically a true story. Stephen King, that character embodies Stephen King a little bit. He said that Stephen King used to smoke and drink and do drugs, and then he quit. A lot of coke. He quit all that stuff, but he used to have a cigarette after he finished a novel. He allowed himself to have one as a celebratory sort of, as a celebration of finishing a novel. And supposedly he liked to go to different places where he could just be alone to finish novels and stuff. And I guess that happened to him. He was coming home from someplace up in New England and crashed, and he crashed. I don't think he didn't get taken in by a wacko. I know that part didn't happen, but I guess he thought of like, what if that happened? And that's where he came up with that story. Great story again. Kathy Bates, can't say enough about her. And we already talked some about that, so that's number 7. Let's move on to number 6. Dirty, what do you got for number 6?
Sleepy Hollow.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci, good cast. Tim Burton's attempt at like horror. Christopher Walken is great. He's great as the Headless Horseman. Pretty scary. I don't know. I just thought it was a good movie. Like the cinematography. I don't know. It was a good movie. Not a lot of movies about the Headless Horseman, so it's nice. It's a pretty good take on it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Very much. But the guy that I was thinking of, it just came to me just now, Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
He's the ruler that I was thinking about. Was he from Hungary?
No, man, he's from Mongolia.
Yeah, Mongolia. I knew it was some Asian, an Asian country instead, but, all right, moving on from that. Number 6. What do I have for number 6? Quentin Tarantino's Dusk Till Dawn. Very entertaining movie. I had no idea what the movie was about. It was one of the few movies that, what's his name was in from ER that I actually liked.
George Clooney, yeah.
George Clooney. I don't think he's had that great of a career. I think he's a cool guy, and I know he's invested well. I don't like too many of that stuff that he's ever really done.
Yeah.
Kind of wonder actually why. I guess he was big in ER, but whatever. He was in Quentin Tarantino is one of the few movies that he was in, and he played his psychotic brother. Juliette Lewis was in there. Harvey Keitel, Cheech Marin from Cheech and Chong had a great little bit part. And that movie absolutely made a star of Salma Hayek. She was one of the dancers on the bar they go to, basically.
Yeah.
George Clooney and his brother rob a couple of banks, I believe, in Texas, and then they immediately try to go over the border. And once they're there, right before they do, I guess, or once they enter Mexico, they go into this bar, ultimate biker bar, ultimate drinker bar with dancers. And when I first saw the movie, I didn't know it was about, here's the one little spoiler. I'm not going to tell you the end or whatever, but it involves vampires. Now, I remember when they do the marketing of this movie, I don't know if they really showed vampires. I remember when I saw it, I was freaked out when Salma Hayek just turned into vampires in the whole room. Like half the room turned into vampires.
Yeah.
And just started attacking everyone. It was so cool because I thought it was going to be a completely different movie about these American guys robbing banks and then going over to Mexico and maybe someone chasing after them. I had no idea it was going to be about vampires in a bar. But anyway, highly recommended, very entertaining movie. There's a really cool bar band that's in that movie. Also, the guy that did all the special effects, and which pisses me off is that I can't find Dusk Till Dawn in Wikipedia, probably because of some special character that I'm not putting in. But who's the guy that did all the special effects for Friday the 13th and all those movies?
Hold on. That was the first time I saw that guy. I had no idea who the fuck he was.
Yeah, his wiener, it was Two Guns that came out or something.
Tom Savini.
There you go, Tom Savini. He actually started doing a number of movies after that where he started acting as opposed to doing the special effects.
He's a Robert Rodriguez guy. Him and Danny Trejo started. Yeah. I think that was one of his first movies. Holy shit. Man. Yeah, Cheech Marin. Yeah.
Yeah, good movie. Liked it. Saw it a few times. Haven't seen it in a while. Definitely recommend it. Let's move on to number 5.
Okay. Silence of the Lambs.
Classic.
Yeah. Got an Academy Award. Anthony Hopkins. It's like the first mainstream, like, horror movie. I dub the genre human monster, where it's about, a serial killer and it just delves deep into that, and it's just good actors. The guy who plays I guess he would be referred to as trans now, but the guy who played the Buffalo Bill.
Yeah.
He's really good in it. He was always remembered that until he got on the show Monk, and then you think of him as like the detective. But he's really good in that. I like Sam Shepard. It's just a good movie. It was classic. It was a big deal when it came out, and well deserved a big deal. Like I said, got an Academy Award, and never really thought much about Anthony Hopkins until I saw that movie, and then I noticed him more.
Yeah, he was in one of my 1970s picks, movie called Magic, about a ventriloquist. He played the main character in that, and I know he was acting through the 80s too, but that was really his breakthrough role. I'll say this too, the guy that wrote The Silence of the Lambs, let me go into this, the guy that wrote the book, let me see if I can get this guy's name. Fucking, you know what I mean? You go to the Wikipedia page, it's never actually the information you want. Thomas Harris, I'm sorry. Thomas Harris, the guy who wrote this book, he used the character, I believe, Jodie Foster's character, in a few stories, and he definitely had a number of. Yeah, he had a number of stories about serial killers. There's Red Dragon, I know, which was very good, which was kind of a remake of an 80s movie from a story that he had written. I got to tell you, as good as Silence of the Lambs was, and I think it was good. I thought that Hannibal, the second one, I still have not seen the movie. It was one of the worst books I've ever read in my life. It disgusted me. It was something where when novelists create a character that ends up to be a big, huge, bigger than life character, like Hannibal Lecter, they almost start to gravitate towards the character as if they think that they're them, or the character resonates a little too much with them, or they become one and the same with the character. I'm not saying the guy went out and became a serial killer, but it's almost like in Hannibal, he started making him the hero, and it really.
Oh yeah, he's like he's the anti-hero. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pathetic, absolutely pathetic. And that book the second one just got clobbered by everyone. I can't say enough about how it reminds me almost in a small way of the guy that created The Sopranos. And he wrote the first couple of seasons, and then other people and he was involved with the story, but other people kind of picked it up and finished off the character, and they started making Tony Soprano really grotesque as it went on. And towards the end of the series, he was doing these things and killing people he would never have killed before, friends of friends, and going way beyond his boundaries as far as, just killing other mafioso and stuff like that. He really, and I remember him saying, like, towards the end, this is a little bit of a spoiler, and I don't give a fuck, it's been 15 years, but they didn't show Tony Soprano getting killed on air. Now, if you've ever seen The Sopranos, I believe he died in the end of it. I think it's apparent, but, and he said he was so pissed off that people wanted to see Tony Soprano get killed that he purposely made sure to not show it so that it wouldn't, sort of trigger people's bloodlust, which made me sick because 18-year-old dancers were getting their heads bashed into rails by mafia guys, and like he doesn't want to show him die, but he'll show like an 18-year-old girl who's the mother of one, who's a dancer, get her head bashed in by repeatedly by a mobster. And it's like when he talks about this bloodlust thing, it made it seem like he didn't want people to see Tony die because somehow he saw himself in Tony Soprano. And it really kind of made me disgusted to how he saw himself, a little bit of himself in the character, and he purposely tried to make him a type of a hero while all these other writers are in there saying, look, we have to make this realistic. He's a mobster. He's not like a teacher, so anyway.
Yeah.
That was my thing about Hannibal and about the second one. But anyway, yeah, Silence of the Lambs, huge. That was your number 5, I want to say?
Yeah.
Okay. My number 5 is a collection of books that was huge by Anne Rice, a collection of vampire books. The movie I'm choosing is Interview with the Vampire, 1994. Very, very good book. And the way that the books went, I really liked Interview with the Vampire. I really, really did not like Vampire Lestat. I believe was the next one up after that. That really kind of sucked. Where they basically had, it was more of a modernized thing where he became like a rock star, like a vampire rock star, and it just was shit. Absolutely sucked. And then she finished up with that movie. The book actually was very good. I thought it was good. And it was the movie that had that girl that died in the plane crash at the end of the 90s. Queen of the Damned. Is it Queen of the Damned or?
Oh, Rihanna. Yeah.
What was the girl that died?
Rihanna. Or no, sorry. Oh my God. Aaliyah.
Aaliyah. That's it.
Yeah.
That I don't know about the movie. I think I heard the movie wasn't that good. The book was good. Anyway, Interview with the Vampire. Brad Pitt really just kind of shows. He kind of sucks sometimes. He's a little hitter. He's never done anything great. He gets blown the fuck off the screen by Tom Cruise. This is one of the few movies that Tom Cruise does where he electrifies. I think that the way that he does this character, and when I heard he was doing this, I'm like, this guy can't play the vampire Lestat. What are you kidding me? A French, like, debonair, sort of high society, high class vampire. And he really pulled it off. And even Anne Rice was like really down about the casting of him as his character. And he was, that's as good as I've ever seen him. I'll put that way past, there's a war film that he made in the 80s
Born on the 4th of July?
Yeah, which people are like, oh, that's his ultimate film. No. He's so good in this movie. Rain Man. There's a couple other ones too that people put Magnolia, blah blah blah. Anyway, this is an excellent movie. Besides the fact that it introduces Antonio Banderas, and I know he'd been doing Robert Rodriguez films. He was so good in this movie. Him and Tom Cruise together were dynamite. I don't mean to be so down on Brad Pitt, but compared to these guys, Brad Pitt was a limp dick in a movie of not going to I'm not going to make any more dick references to actors and their performances, but basically he was very, very average and kind of lifeless in his character, and those other guys, I mean, Antonio Banderas was a scene stealer in this one, and of course, the 12-year-old Kirsten Dunst. But I haven't really seen her do too many great things since then. She hasn't had a very good adult career in acting, I don't think.
Spider-Man was like the biggest, thing, but I haven't either.
That she did a politician movie called Dick, I think, it was about Richard Nixon. That was good.
Oh.
But besides that, I mean, her best roles were really earlier. But she was very good in this movie, and it was very impressive. It was very impressive. I loved the cinematography when they were in New Orleans. In the beginning, they travel around Europe, of course, but there's a scene where they're going through this old, there's some swamp scenes that are incredible. There's a scene where they're going through some old graveyard or something, and the eyes open of the statuesque figures, the stone figures in the graveyard, and it was just a kind of a beautiful film and very well done. That's my number 5, Interview with the Vampire. Dirty, let's go on with we're inside the top 5 now. We got number 4. What do you got for number 4?
Jacob's Ladder.
That's a classic. Total classic. What's that dude, the guy who stars in it?
Tim Robbins.
Tim Robbins, yeah. What was that about? Like experiments and stuff from Vietnam War with drugs or different?
So Jacob's Ladder is a term for, I think originally it's a term referencing a literal stairway to heaven, like the song, but right. Also it's also a reference to a drug, because the CIA and the U.S. military were testing super drugs on soldiers, and it made them, wig out. And it's about that, about a unit that was tested on that killed, that just freaked out and killed each other, the hallucinogen. And this guy, he won't allow himself to die. And it's a reference to, Vietnam and I don't know, it's a horror movie, like there, but it's very political too, because it just, in the 90s, late 80s and 90s, there was a lot of movies about Vietnam and a lot of exposure and how it was just a shit show, an American shit show that shouldn't have happened. And this is one of those things, and it's about, this one guy, like you said, in New York, and he won't die, like his spirit won't die, and he's living over and over, and he has a lot of hallucinations. And it's just, I just thought it was really good cast. Ving Rhames is in it. The woman who plays his wife is really good. There's a bunch of good scenes. It takes place in New York in the 70s. But yeah, it's just but there's a real powerful scene where he's in a hospital, and they show like, and it's this effect they started using of I don't know how you explain it, like just the spirits or the people being experimented on, and you show him like shaking, and it's like this intense, like high speed shaking, and it's a great movie. I thought it was really good. It was really thought provoking. Just good movie.
Yeah, it's really kind of gross when we think that Nazis did all the experimentation on human beings, but boy, did the American government do a lot. I mean, if you talk about giving cocaine to, it wasn't slaves, but they would give them to factory workers, I guess, back in the day, so they could work double, triple shifts, and that's not the government doing that. Excuse me. But the Tuskegee.
Oh yeah, they inject syphilis. They had a test because they had this racist, it was like a eugenics theory that black folks were more able to deal with pain more and stronger, thicker boned, all these different elements, and so yeah, I mean, if you think about it and you start doing research, and I hate saying it like that because now that's like that's a bastardized term, but you look at like you have the Nazis and they were horrible and they did a lot of horrible things and experiments, but if you look at what the CIA has done and the U.S. government, and then you look at what the Soviets were doing, because they had their own super soldier, they were testing on gorillas, and it's sick, and the U.S. government and the Nazis and the Soviets both took in Nazi scientists because they were like, oh, let's look at this and let's try it out. So it's like, and we could talk about the Japanese too, the Imperial Army or government. They were doing fucked up things as well. So if there's a contest, I don't know. I think they all win at being the most grotesque in history of the 20th century, But yeah.
Yeah, bad news. So Jacob's Ladder, that was number 4, Dirty on your list. My number 4 is a franchise started in 1990. And I really liked part 2, part 3, part 4. I went up to like part 5 or something. I gotta say, of a horror franchise, I can't think of a franchise where every subsequent movie inherited my brain power strike to really think, but the integrity of the original movies, and they only dipped maybe a little bit. When I'm talking about the Tremors franchise, I thought it was fantastic out in the desert. Yeah, did you ever see any of those?
No, I couldn't get into it, but I know that was like it was a growing. They were growing in popularity, and it had a good cast, and I thought it was a good story idea. I just couldn't get into them.
I loved it. I kept watching them. I swear, I think the 5th, but they eventually started to get cheap and using like computer generated Tremors instead of, and then it was like, oh, this is like, they turned into sci-fi movies, which ruined them. But the first, I want to say maybe 5 were all good, and they all had Michael Gross, the dad from Family Ties, was great. He was great in those.
Yeah.
Fred Ward was a guy that was in like, I don't know, different puppet movies and different cheap sort of like horror movies, and I think he was not Buckaroo Banzai. He was Remo Williams. If anybody saw The Adventures of, I think it was Remo Williams, but Fred Ward, he was very good. Reba McEntire.
Right.
Oh, Fred Ward, how about that? That was his big, must have been one of his bigger movies. And of course, Kevin Bacon was in the first one. I just thought they were cool as hell. And as you went on to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, the Tremor creatures started to evolve, and the hillbillies started to get better sort of technology to be able to trace and track them. It was just totally cool, suspenseful. I swear to God, I stayed up one night and watched 1 through 4 or 5 on whatever channel it was, and I'm like, every single one was really good, and I was very surprised. So that's my number 4 is Tremors. Dirty, what do you got for number 3?
Let's see. Scary movie.
Okay, like a mock on scary movies parody.
Yeah, I thought it was, even though it was a comedy, I thought it was still pretty good. It had some pretty creepy scenes in it. I liked the fact it was playing off of horror movies. I don't know. I just thought that was a good movie. I mean, it was a comedy. It was written like a comedy and all that. But like I said, I thought some of the scenes were pretty fucked up. There's a scene where was it Marlon Wayans? He goes under a bed and there's a clown there and he tries to take him and he overpowers the clown. I found it still kind of creepy despite it being a horror movie.
Yeah.
I mean a comedy, sorry.
Yeah, plus the introduction of what's the blonde girl, Anna?
Oh, and you talking about not Anna Cole Smith. She's in a later one. You're talking about Pamela Anderson.
No. I was talking about the main character. I'm gonna have to look her up. Anna Faris.
Anna Faris, yeah, she's pretty funny. Oh man, that's a 2000 movie. Oh, bummer.
Okay, well, whatever. This is probably one.
Yeah.
You put Scary Movie 2 in the next one, but Anna Faris has had a great career. I'm a huge fan of the TV show Mom that she was in. She did a House Bunny movie that was fantastic.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was. She's had a great career. She goes between like, I don't know, like a sexy bunny, or she'll do like a mainstream middle lower class mom, where she's just wearing jeans and hoodies all the time, and she's just she's good. She's very good at comedy, and I thought Carmen Electra was the one that was in Scary Movie, not Pamela.
Yeah.
Okay. That was actually a big hit movie. It launched. Boy, the Wayans. I just saw a TV show now. Damon Wayans Jr. is in a TV show. So you go between the elder Wayans, Keenan Ivory Wayans, Damon Wayans, and I went to Sean and Marlon Wayans. Now it's Damon Wayans Jr. I mean, talk about a family that's in show business.
Oh yeah, even they have little brothers too, or nephews, I believe, and they're actors as well. And then they have their sister who was on In Living Color.
Oh, she was good. Yeah. I still think that the funniest is, I mean, Keenan Ivory Wayans. I think that he co-wrote "I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker."
Yeah, he wrote that with Robert Townsend. Him and Robert Townsend left New York, and then that was like their first breakthrough movie when they got to L.A.
Yeah, and Damon Wayans, of course, was, I thought, the funniest on In Living Color. Obviously, like Homie the Clown, and obviously he's a very, very good comic actor. Okay, so number 3 is going to be a repeat of one that you already said. My number 3 is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow with Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci. Fantastic performance from Johnny Depp back when he was cool. He was doing really good movies. God, his accent, his dress, the way he dressed, his character, with the scientific advancements and murder mysteries and stuff was great. It was such a stylistic movie from Tim Burton. It's absolutely one of my favorite Tim Burton movies ever. You can put that up there with like Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh yeah.
And I'm trying to think of anything else that he did that would matter. I never liked Beetlejuice.
Really?
Yeah, I loved the second Batman Returns. That was great. But Tim Burton, yeah, he's obviously a great career. This movie, it was so cool. Like you said, Christopher Walken playing the German soldier. And it was, I still remember a couple of scenes. Number 1 was when I like how he changed the story a little bit of Sleepy Hollow, made it an original tale. I guess this was also part of the screenplay writer. But I still remember that first scene when when you see the Headless Horseman, he goes into that house, and he's looking for the little kid, right? The little 5-year-old kid or something like that. And he's just walking around on the creaky wood floors and stuff, and it was just a very well done scene. All of the females in the old bustier dresses, and of course I still remember when Johnny Depp, who thought the whole thing was bullshit, when he actually finally sees the Headless Horseman and he's hiding up in his room, and they're like, "You have to come out." And they're knocking on the door, and they go in. The first thing he says is, "It was a horseman, and it was headless." And it's almost kind of like, "Yeah, we know. We've been telling you the whole movie about there's a Headless Horseman out there lopping people's heads off."
Right.
I really loved, too, the background of his character, of Ichabod Crane, obviously a much different Ichabod Crane than we remember in the book, but that his mother was accused of being into witchcraft because of her. Wow, she was into symbols, and she was into, like, little devices that would, play around and switch the light in the room. Little childhood things above his bed, and then his father put his mother in an Iron Maiden and killed her because they thought she was a witch.
Wait, that was in the original story?
No, absolutely not. That's what made this movie so brilliantly dark, is the background of the character, of his character, Ichabod Crane. I don't even know. I'm sure he was called Ichabod Crane. I don't even know if he was.
Right.
I imagine he was, but the background of the character when they went into that about him being a little child and being subjected to that was really just quite amazing, and very a very kind of dark and disturbed movie for something that was, I don't even think it was rated R. I think it was a PG-13.
Yeah, it's just Tim Burton, so.
Yeah, it's so well done to be able to put that many dark pieces of the story into like a little child's classic to make it a modern horror classic to me. Anyway, Sleepy Hollow, excellent film, my number 3. Dirty, we are on to number 2.
Number 2, Scream.
I'll tell you what, we can do this together because that's my number 2 as well. Let's do it together. Yeah. What do you
got? Scream.
I mean, what's your description, synopsis? Any scenes you remember?
I liked it. I liked the story. It's a play on horror movies and, the obsession with it. I like the villains. I like how they do the villains. 'Cause now it's like a huge franchise and they've expanded it, and I mean, it's crazy. A TV show and then a new movie, newer cast, and it's kind of one of those stories where you can constantly keep going because it's like there's not just one person. Originally there's actually it's 2 people, I believe, that are part of it, but it's the way it's done is like you can have copycats upon copycats continuing the sick legacy. But I like the story, I like the look. It was like it kept to the original like horror movie style. Isn't it Wes Craven who wrote it?
Absolutely, yeah. He directed it. It was written by the same guy who did I Know What You Did Last Summer, Kevin Williamson.
So good stuff. I liked it, and it kept, like I said, it had the essence of classic horror, but with a new 90s. Like you said, it's got that Friends thing where, like, every major actor now that you know of is in it. Good cast. Was it not Demi Moore? What's her name? In the beginning,
Apple.
Drew Barrymore.
On
the phone, and I think it was like the first. it was like it was a movie of its time, and the whole thing with the phone and the phone call and that mask before the movie came out. That's a mask I used to eyeball that mask in stores for Halloween in the early 90s because it was one that they put out, and so I thought it was great that they actually used that, and it became the trademark look. But yeah, it's just good. It was simplified, and just talking about like horror genre, and I don't know. So I thought it was a good movie, good cast.
Yeah, Ghostface Killer, right? Was the costume?
Something like that, yeah.
Great little cameos. I think Henry Winkler had a cameo as the principal. He was the principal of the high school.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Some of the cast was really good. Some of them weren't as good. Didn't like Skeet Ulrich too much. He was just too much of a Johnny Depp wannabe. Who's also in the first in Nightmare on Elm Street. But that was Rose McGowan's, one of her first big films, and I don't know, some people would say she's a wacko, some people would say she's a huge part of the Me Too movement.
Yeah, she's great.
But, yeah, I don't know, and had Matthew Lillard, I think was one of the bright spots of that movie. Him and David Arquette was fantastic as the deputy. He was great. Courtney Cox, one of the few people, we're talking about having a Friends vibe to it. I'll tell you what, too, she's one of the few people from Friends that's gone on to have a movie career. You could even argue that, because none of the guys have. I can't stand David Schwimmer. I really don't like Friends at all. I don't like the TV show. Jennifer Aniston has had an average movie career, but she's more been like just a average white girl's like, model-esque, picturesque sort of like, hey, look what you can do when you're not really that good looking. You can still be sort of glamour model type. I don't dislike her at all. I think she's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But, too many glossy, young, white kids. I'm not, usually you're the person saying it's not me. Just like, but I almost think the, cast was, from I Know What You Did Last Summer, I almost think that, they're kind of transparent a little bit. Both of them are kind of the same. But you can't knock the fact that, Drew Barrymore in the beginning was just awesome. That opening scene was killer. And from then on, I think it kind of, there was a great cover song of Don't Fear the Reaper in there, at some point. During, when Skeet Ulrich slips into Neve Campbell's window one night. Anyway, and the Scream franchise, huge franchise. Part 2 was a really big deal. I did not like it as much because, the cast got much worse. I'm thinking of the guy they brought in, the kid from Stand By Me, who I just think is a lousy actor. In the second one, he stands up and sings a song to Neve Campbell in the college lunchroom. It just sucked.
I didn't watch it after that. I didn't really care.
The third one, I thought the third one was pretty good, but I just haven't been a big fan of the, when it goes back to it, Dirty, we talked about this before. For me, Tremors, Friday the 13th is just one of the few, horror movie franchises that you can go into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, and they're all kind of interesting. They all have some great replay value and watchability to them. There's just not too many, parts 1, 2, 3, 4, especially horror movies that can really sustain interest as they get into it. So, but undeniable Scream. One last thing I'll say about this is, God, I remember going to see that film. It was only because I was on a date with a girl who I just was crazy about, and she was a student at Northwestern, and she was a big fan of Neve Campbell because she was in, I think it was Party of Five, some WD show, whatever. And she's like, let's go see this. And I'm like, okay. And I was just kind of whatever. And we both got Cokes at the theater, and I'm like, just put them in like half, just give us like a half a Coke. And I kind of winked at the girl, and I got us a bottle of whiskey. I poured it in, and we basically got a little bit drunk watching the movie and went out afterwards, and it was just like, oh, it was just a great, great night. So fortunately, Scream actually, part of me liking that is what a great time I had. And let's say, whether or not you're a kid, teenager, 20s, whatever, if you had a great experience watching a movie, it definitely makes it a memory for you with the actual, how good the movie was.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we're down to it. Now, this is it. This is number one. Dirty, what is your number one best horror movie of the 1990s?
People Under the Stairs.
Wes Craven, again.
Yeah, really good one. Just nasty.
I remember it being kind of a lighter horror movie as far as violence and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of violent horror movies. That's the weird thing about 90s horror. There's more of story. It's less graphic, more about the character. But that one was just great because it just like takes place in the city, and these two fucking bigots trap people under their stairs, and they have this intricate setup, and like the people underneath, like they start to mutate or whatever. And but the two villains, like the kid who the hero is great. He's a lovable character, but he's also the hero, and he's also a kid. But to go and fight, which I thought was scary, or to go and and to deal with like these two nuts who are like, I don't know what you would call them, just crazy white people. They're just, I don't know, it's like they're from another time, the way they act, and just insane, and the way they're dressed up, and they come off like this lily white couple and all that, but they're sick. So I don't know, I thought it was a pretty good, and it was just written well. It was, good cast. I don't know, it just all around, and I think it took place in Chicago. I can't remember. But there was a lot of movies in Chicago back then. But yeah, it was a good movie. I don't know. I always thought it was a great movie, and yeah, that's it.
All right, well, my number one, let me see. My number one is actually a double again, from, let me get my voice up here to the mic. It's a double from one you already did. I think it's the scariest movie in the entire decade, and it's a TV movie. And I'm talking about it. I really think that beats every single one of them. I don't think any of the movies we've talked about can match the evil of the Pennywise character, portrayed by the guy that we talked about,
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry. So great when he changes. And he's like, hey, his voice, hey, Freddy, come on down here. We got a party going down here in the sewer.
Right.
And then next thing you know, he's got these big monster teeth. The ending kind of sucked a little bit, but it was so incredible from part one to part two. It really was riveting, kept you interested. The cast was unbelievable. It was actually directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, which Tommy Lee Wallace has worked closely with John Carpenter on almost every film that he did. And actually, he played the Shape in the Halloween movie. There's two people that played Michael Myers. He played Michael Myers in the end, the very last scene in the closet, where she attacks him with a coat hanger, the end of a coat hanger or something like that. That's Tommy Lee Wallace. He ended up directing, trying to get into his bio here. Let me see, director. So Tommy Lee Wallace, he did direct Fright Night Part 2. He directed Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I thought he directed more than this. There's a couple of people that worked on Halloween, set design, cinematography, whatever, that went on to direct. I think one of the guys was, I told you, directed Last Starfighter. Um, anyway, it's, I think, a tremendous movie. I still think, yeah, we won't tell you which character, but the end of the part one miniseries where they realize that it's come back, and one of the characters just bleeds out in a pool and is like, I can't deal with this again. It was so horrific leading into part two. Anyway, so that's it. Let me see if there's anything else I can say about that movie. I can't even say that I tried to read the book. That's one of those like monster Stephen King books that's like something like 800 pages or 1,000 pages or I just haven't. I've read plenty of his stuff, but I haven't read that. I think that the mini series, as far as I can tell, included lots of. I mean, you know, it was 4 hours long, so I think it obviously had to include all kinds of stuff. I have not watched, and Dirty, I'm going to ask you, have you seen the remake, parts 1 and 2 from 2017 and 2019, I believe?
Yeah, I loved it. I think Tim Curry is a better Pennywise, but on the other hand, as far as like movies go, I thought they were better. I thought they were better visually. I like the cast. The guy who plays Pennywise, if you look at him and his face, like he has a really distinct look. He doesn't even need makeup. Like his look, he looks like a fucking Howdy Doody mask in itself. So he's already got a creepy look, but I liked it because it delved a little deeper. I never read the book, but you know, I liked the character, so I do. I just thought it was good, and like I said, and I thought the cast was good. I liked it. You know, not everybody's into remakes. Remakes are hard, you know, to do, but I don't know. I thought they went more from the book, I guess. I don't know.
The last thing I'll say about it is that I really love Stephen King's portrayal of small towns. And it's really the attitude of small town people of like, oh, all that nonsense big city bullshit doesn't happen here. What happens here? And I'll tell you what, and I referenced the movie It because the town that I grew up in as a kid was so fucked up. And people thought it was like, hey, isn't it nice being away from the city and stuff? I'm like, fuck no, it isn't. Like, I actually grew up in a small town that had a group of kids that were, it was like a couple of small towns that were like middle class. Right next to, there's a regional high school next to a couple of small towns that were really like inbred, middle of Kentucky, like backwoods Deliverance type areas way out in the woods. And there was incest going on there. There was all kinds of inbred shit going on there. And guess what? Those kids would stay back years from high school and be like 16 years old in the 7th and 8th grade. And they would kick the shit out of all of us. And they had a group called the KGB. If you paid them, they would go and beat somebody up, take an eye out, do whatever, you know, whatever. And they kind of ruled this little town. It was so fucked up. And I just remember, and even to this day, if I talk to my mom, she said, that was just quite a quiet, special little town. I'm like, you still don't know what the fuck I went through. Like, anyway, it's just perfect personification of that kind of stuff. The last thing I want to do real briefly is go through the actors. Harry Anderson from Night Court. I fucking hate that guy. I think he sucks.
Really?
Can't stand him. I remember him from Cheers. Blows real hard. Dennis Christopher is great. He plays a little meat character. Richard Mazer, I really like. He's from my favorite horror movie of all time. God, I'm really blanking. The Thing. And that O'Toole is fantastic. Tim Reed from WKRP. John Ritter is awesome. Richard Thomas. He's the one I wanted to get to because obviously Tim Curry was great. Richard Thomas, John Boy from the Waltons, has had a very, very good career in acting and really broke his role of being John Boy in that movie, and I think has done a great job unstereotyping himself from that role.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, so let's wrap this up. This was the top horror movies from the 1990s. This finalizes our list. Check us out next time. Dirty Mouth Morgan, thanks so much, man.
Yeah, that was good.
We're partners in crime in this. I'm Dylan, Master Blaster Podcasters. Have a great night.
Have a great night. Thank you.